Hi, Gigi. Come share an apple with me. I picked it fresh from Granny Smith's sinister tree. Don't mind my stories, you'll soon see. They're as dark and disturbing as they can be. Murmurs of secrets, bloody sodden crimes, Granny's bone-clicking tales will twist your mind. You'll be hanging on my words from the edge of your seats. Now how'd you like to go dig up some bodies with me? So go grab a shovel and gather around, 'cause 8 feet under is where they'll be found. This podcast contains detailed discussions of real-life crimes, which may include descriptions of violence, sensitive subject matter, and other potentially distressing content. Listener discretion is strongly advised. The material is intended for mature audiences only and may not be suitable for children or those who may find such topics triggering. Welcome, my curious little crime connoisseurs. You've just descended 8 feet under with Granny Smith. I really hope you're into this stuff like I am, because I'm here to feed your true crime obsession one story at a time. Each week, we'll dig into the darkest, weirdest, sometimes disturbing corners of human behavior with cases of murder, cold cases, and those bizarre mysteries that make you suspicious of everyone. I won't always be talking to myself, though. I'll have guests pop in from time to time and have them listen to one of Granny's stories. If you're wondering what the whole granny thing is about, yes, I really am a granny. I'm 39 years young and technically a granny. But I'll just be real, you probably won't catch me baking cookies or crocheting in a rocking chair. This granny prefers murder mysteries over knitting needles, although I am literally sitting in my recliner / rocking chair as we speak. Don't judge me. So before we get started, I have to tell you the whole ordeal that it took for me to just get this thing started. So I had 3 episodes already recorded. First episode was by myself. Second and third episode, I had guests. We recorded the video as well as the audio, obviously. And it was great. It was hilarious. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. We had such a good time. I went to edit yesterday or this morning, finished editing this morning. And after I exported the files, they completely disappeared. Both episodes with the guests, episodes 2 and 3, gone. So I did contact customer support. They're working on helping me get through it, but it's last minute. So I am going to have to re-record episodes 2 and 3 by myself. So I'm sorry you guys won't get to see or hear the original, which I think everybody would have enjoyed because, like I said, we had a blast. If somehow customer support can help me restore those files, then I'll still post them just as like a little side thing for people to see. So bear with me. I am working with a laptop, some headphones, and my son's gaming mic. So, which I didn't have before when I originally started recording. So hopefully it sounds better. And now I'm sick, as you can tell. So please don't mind my voice. I have my little medicine ball here from Starbucks. So hopefully that'll help me get through this without sounding too bad. Let's get started. My first episode, I decided to do something that hit a little close to home, literally. I grew up in Tempe on Baseline Road in the Lakes. Our apartment faced Baseline Road. So you could, and we did as kids, throw a stone over the wall right onto Baseline Road. So I feel it's only fitting that I tell you about Mark Goudeau, the Baseline rapist, aka the Baseline killer. I believe I was about 20 years old when this guy was actively raping and murdering women. I do remember my mom and grandparents were constantly telling us they didn't want us to go anywhere. They needed us to be careful, and they pretty much just didn't want us in the streets. But of course, that didn't stop us. So, grab a little snacky poo, a little drink, a little cup of tea or tequila, get comfy. Let's go 8 feet under. Sources that I used for today's episode are a Fox 5 Atlanta news article published March 22nd, 2017, a Wikipedia article, a Murderpedia article, and an article from Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Also, an article from Phoenix News Time published by Paul Rubin. And I didn't use this next thing as an source, but I just wanted to put it out there in case anybody wanted to watch it because I haven't watched it yet. There's an episode of World's Most Evil Serial Killers. I believe it's season 7, episode 7 that covers this story. And I am ashamed to say that I didn't even know Murderpedia was really a thing until recently. So shame on me. All right, let's dig into Mark's early childhood years. He was born in Phoenix, Arizona on September 6, 1964. He grew up near 12th Street and Southern in a pretty crowded household. He was the second youngest of 13 children, and he had a pretty tough family dynamic. His mother and father were Willie and Alberta. They both worked blue-collar jobs. They later divorced. And one of Mark's siblings stated that they had a good upbringing, but court records tell a different story, one that includes a verbally abusive alcoholic father and dysfunctional family environment. Alberta, his mother, died when he was about 12. Her passing and then the issues with the father kind of left him and his siblings to take care of each other. And, we do see this a lot in chaotic families and sometimes in not chaotic, very loving families who are just overworked, doing what they need to do to make a living to survive, and the kids are forced to take on more adult responsibilities and grow up faster than they normally would. So a few years later, Mark moves to Tempe to live with one of his older sisters. He started to abuse alcohol and drugs, specifically cocaine, which he later tried to blame for his criminal behavior, but I'm not buying that. So he and his brother played football at Corona del Sol High School, where Mark later dropped out due to lack of credits. It's unclear which brother this was because one article states it was his younger brother Marvin, while another states it was his older brother Michael. So fast forward to 1982 when Mark was 18. He and his brother were arrested for the rape of a young woman, but no charges were ever pressed. Then when we jump to 1991, Mark was sentenced to 21 years in prison for yet another violent crime against women, where he beat a poor woman's head in with a barbell. The original charges were kidnap and rape, which he later pled down to sexual assault and was released in 2002 after serving 13 of the 21-year sentence. A court investigator states Mark's chances of repeating this behavior, quote, appear to be great, end quote. And this is where I get frustrated because I know I can't be the only one who doesn't understand how or why we continue to let these offenders and predators back on the streets once they have proven they have such a high recidivism rate. It's like, can't we just find a deserted island to just dump them onto and let them fend for themselves, Anyways, I digress. So again, Mark is a kidnapper, serial killer who raped, robbed, and murdered 9 of his victims during his spree from August 2005 to June of 2006. And this douchebag commits 77 other felonies, bringing his grand total to 86 felonies within a 10-month time period. Most, but not all, of his victims were found along Baseline Road, hence the name Baseline Killer. And initially, he was actually referred to as the Baseline Rapist until he was linked to the series of murders in the spring of 2006 when the officials started to believe that he did commit those other 9 counts of first-degree murder, which were 8 women and 1 man. He assaulted females, as young as 12 years old. So let's just hope and pray that there is a special place in hell for people like him. Additionally, he was responsible for 15 sexual assaults on women and young girls, 11 counts of kidnapping, and a plethora of armed robbery. At times, he wore a Halloween mask or attempted to impersonate a drug addict or homeless man, and he often shot his victims in the head. Naturally, fear continued to grow in the city. There were posters and billboards displayed with the sketch of the Baseline Killer, as well as a $100,000 reward for any information that may lead to his arrest. And I do remember these sketches. I didn't have a car, so we rode the bus a lot. They were posted at the bus stops, inside the bus, just everywhere. So just to give a rundown of his timeline of crimes, I won't read every single detail of every crime. I just kind of want to give like a quick overview of it. So August 6, 2005, 2 sexual assaults. August 14th, 2005, combined sexual assault and robbery. September 8th, 2005, homicide. September 15th, 2005, sexual assault. September 20th, 2005, sexual assault. Now, this one was on West Vineyard Road in Phoenix of 2 sisters that were walking home from a Phoenix park at night. One of the sisters was very clearly pregnant. Mark approached them with a gun, sexually assaulted one of the sisters while pushing the gun into the stomach of the pregnant sister's belly. September 28th, 2005, robbery. September 28th, 2005, combined sexual assault and robbery. Now, these are both on the same day. One was on Baseline Road in Tempe. The other was on Central Avenue in Phoenix. The one on Central Avenue was at 9:30 p.m. There was no time listed for the other one, so I'm not sure if that was before or after the one in Phoenix. November 3rd, 2005, robbery and sexual assault. November 7th, 2005, 3 separate robberies. December 12th, 2005, homicide. December 13th, 2005, robbery. February 20th, 2006, 2 homicides. February 15th, 2006. Sorry, not February. March 15th, 2006. My bad. 2 homicides. March 29th, 2006, homicide. May 1st, 2006, sexual assault. May 5th, 2006 is when the police went public with the list of the crimes that they believed, actually it was 18 crimes that they believed were the work of the baseline killer. And then by August 2nd of 2006, the 18 crimes jumped to 23. Then we have June 29th, 2006, homicide. That was actually caught on CCTV. I have not looked for that, just going to be honest. I probably will, just to see if I can find that video. But that was the last crime that was attributed to the baseline killer. However, according to the Fox 5 Atlanta article, police say they had DNA evidence that linked Mark to a February 27th, 1985 sexual assault of a Mesa woman near Stapley and Oakley Street. Back then, we know DNA was nowhere what it is today. And it wasn't really readily available until around 1998. So in July of 2013, the police ran the untested DNA, which then linked Mark to that attack. And unfortunately, the statute of limitations expired on that case in 1990. However, the officials did notify the victim of their findings. And I know that I can't be the only one that thinks that has to change. We have to be able to change the statute of limitations on rape or any type of sexual assault or whatever, because it's just unfair. The victims suffer for their entire lives. And you mean to tell me after a certain amount of years, this person just doesn't have to face any consequences or justice? I think that's insane. Freaking wild. So moving on to his capture and sentence, Goudeau was, you know what? Actually, he was active at the same time as 2 other Phoenix serial killers, jointly known as the serial shooters. I'm not sure if I really remember that here in the other ones, the other case, but it gives me something to look into. So on September 4th, 2006, although some sources say September 7th, 2006, Mark Goudeau was arrested in connection to the sexual assault of the 2 Phoenix sisters that I mentioned earlier. And that attack and arrest is what tied him to the baseline killer investigation. Goudeau faced 2 separate trials, one for 19 charges related to the attack on the 2 sisters, and another 58 charges, including murder, rape, robbery, kidnapping, sexual assault, and or assault of minors and adults. Those 58 charges were related to other cases outside of the 2 sisters. So during the trial, the 2 sisters courageously gave their testimony regarding their terrifying ordeal with Mark. The prosecutors say that he warned the women not to look at his face during the assaults, he wore a condom, and that he rubbed dirt on one of the women to remove saliva traces. Somebody please tell me if that really works. Can you just schmutz up some dirt and it completely destroys the DNA? Does it just contaminate it? I don't know. You see on TV all these CSI lab people and they can somehow extract DNA from every little thing, from trash and all this other stuff. So to me, that doesn't really make sense, but I don't know. If somebody knows the answer to that, please let me know. I could use Google, but I'd rather have somebody tell me. So moving on. For 7.5 weeks, testimony was given, but it only took the jury less than 1 day to reach a verdict. And on December 14th, 2007, Goudeau was convicted on a total of 76 of the 96 crimes, and he was sentenced to death 9 times, so 1 for each murder conviction. He also received a separate consecutive sentence of 438 years in prison for his other crimes. This part right here kind of bothers me. April of 2009, the Times publications published a story revealing that Phoenix Police Department had possessed the key DNA evidence that was eventually used to crack the baseline killer case 9 months before the arrest, but they failed to analyze it in a timely manner. And I get it that there could be a backlog of evidence and things that need to be reviewed or analyzed or tested or whatever, but it still always makes me think, had it been done right away, how many lives would have been saved? How many attacks would have been prevented? It just bothers me. just like with the whole statute of limitations thing, what can we do to fix this issue? Because no shade on police department or anything like that, but I just think it's ridiculous. So Mark was married to a Wendy Carr, and she told the Associated Press that the police have arrested the wrong man. She states, quote, "My husband is innocent. This is a huge miscarriage of justice, and they have an innocent man in prison. This is all a mistake. He shouldn't be in prison for something he didn't do," end quote. Mark was described as a loving husband, a friendly neighbor who took excellent care of his lawn. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Friends and family insisted that he was framed by Phoenix Police Department in their desperate attempt to arrest the suspect. So you tell me your thoughts on that. Do you think he was framed? Do you think he really did it? I mean, I guess everybody has their own opinion. It's not like it's not possible that a person can be framed for a crime, but in this case, I'm not so sure. So Mark didn't really, or at least I couldn't find him giving a reason or an explanation for his crimes. It was hinted at that, again, he tried to say, it was the drugs, the alcohol. That was his excuse. But again, that's not good enough for me. So he never confessed to his crimes, but instead he asked the jury for leniency. And I will include the YouTube link. There's a clip, I believe it's maybe 6 minutes, I think, of him addressing the jury in the court, asking them to go easy on him. So I do have a few quotes from that clip. Mark states, quote, "You know I can't talk about the crimes you found me guilty of, but I can look you in the eyes and say, Mark Goudeau is no wolf in sheep's clothing," end quote. He also states, quote, "They painted me as a monster. I am no monster. Mark Goudeau is no monster. I am no monster," end quote. He asked for a life sentence instead of the death penalty and claimed, quote, "People can change. I changed. I got out of prison and never looked back," end quote. The sources that I used did contain much more information. I just, to be honest, wasn't really sure how much I could or should cram into my first episode. The investigation did include a false confession from another man and I believe a few other suspects. But again, I just kind of wanted to focus on Mark, his life, his killing spree, his crimes and all that. So if you'd like to know more, then I would highly suggest reading through those articles and the other sources that'll be in the show notes. So just a little side story. I don't know if anyone remembers, but I remember there being a rumor that Mark was using his nephew, Patrick Earl Goudeau, to help him lure victims. And later that was debunked. I guess it wasn't true. However, I had a so-called friend back then who met a young man at Arizona Mills Mall and he invited her to a barbecue. They were talking and he's like, my uncle's having a barbecue on such and such date. You and your friends should come, blah, blah, blah. So she calls me and asked me if I wanted to go. And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. So we planned to go, but for whatever reason, we didn't. Later, when all this came out, she calls me. She's like, oh my God, the nephew, Patrick, that's the guy that I met at the mall that invited us to the barbecue at the uncle's house, which would have been likely Mark Goudeau. So that is crazy. Is that true? Did she mistake him for somebody else? Did somebody else just look like him? I don't know. But Patrick was known for roaming the malls looking for young girls that he would later force into sex work. So again, I don't know. I didn't see him, but I'm gonna tell you, I am sure as hell glad we didn't fuck around and find out. Even though that kind of would have made for a good story. Like if we really went and it was really the baseline killer and we, by the grace of God, survived, that would have been a good story to tell. So let me know your thoughts, your feelings. Let me know your feelings on the death penalty, your thoughts on the death penalty. I personally have mixed feelings. On one hand, for me, I think death is too easy. I feel like people like this commit such terrible crimes, should be locked in a box their entire life. No say so, somebody telling them when to eat, sleep, and shit, no freedom, just miserable. Because, once you die, you die. And I know the death penalty takes a while. They sit on death row for a while, but still, I just personally think they should be miserable in prison forever. On the other hand, I can't remember what show or documentary I was watching, but sometimes jail and prison doesn't seem to bother people. Like they're living their best freaking life in there. They're not really suffering. They don't really care. It just kind of is what it is to them, But the victims, the surviving victims or the victims' family members, they suffer for the rest of their lives. So let me know what you think about that. And let me know if you think he was framed, because again, we have seen that where the police just need to close a case. They need to stop the panic. So they plant evidence. They arrest the wrong person and make the evidence fit their theory. So, and again, no shade to the police. So please don't come for me. I am not saying all police are bad. I'm not saying all police do this, but we all know it happens. unfortunately. Thank you for listening to my very first episode. Again, bear with me as I get the hang of this. Eventually, hopefully, get some better equipment. I do have to record the next 2 episodes, so unfortunately, on the next 2 episodes, I will still sound sick. I am sorry. But you can follow me on IG and Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, at the number 8, FTUNDER_GS85. Or you can email me. I don't even know if email is still a thing, if people do that, but it's the number 8, FTUNDER.GrannySmith@gmail.com. And until next crime, stay safe, stay hydrated, don't be an ass. And remember, an apple a day keeps the murderers away. Bye-bye.